Hey guys, I'm with Mike Jamboretz of Jambos Sportfishing. Mike recently gave a seminar on deep water Chinook fishing, and this is part 2 of that seminar. There's a ton of great information in this part of the seminar, but Mike starts talking about the Swiftsure closure. And Mike, more importantly than the closure, why is it that these folks need to get in there and fish as close to that closure as possible?
Well, Swiftsure Bank is a place that sits right in front of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. You get all the tidal current coming on the outgoing tide. It's blasting up out of 1,000 feet of water up onto 300-foot bank up there, and it just mixes up. I mean, it's just alive with. If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. There's humpback whales, sea lions, bait, fish, salmon. You know, it just the closure is important just to know about it, because there's a discrepancy between the Canadian charts and the U.S. charts, and Canada thinks theirs is over there and ours is up there. So fish by your own chart, and everybody should get along there. There's definitely a neutral zone there, but the reason that Swiftsure Bank is so important to fish is it's close to Nia Bay, and it's full of fish. You know, there's salmon there every day, and it's just full of life.
Awesome. So guys, really pay attention here in part 2, because there is some great information. And as Mike says, go off of your chart, and you got to get out there to Swiftsure and get into those fish.
Okay, so there you go. Okay, fishing the beach. Basically, when I talk about fishing the beach, this is a marine chart here again. Here's Tattoos Island. There we go. There's Tattoos Island. Nia Bay's back here. There's about a 12-mile stretch of beach right here. This is going to be a shallow water fishery, and I'm not 100% dialed in on this. There's guys that will go do this. As a charter boat, I have to produce fish. I want everybody on that boat to get a fish. When you fish the beach, you might work really hard for a couple bites all day. I know a lot of guys that they just love it because they're fishing herring. Primarily, you're fishing in shallow water, and it's awesome when you hook up a nice king in the shallow water. Problem is they don't bite very often, you know, and it's just, you really got to know your stuff to hit it. At any rate, so you can start up at Skagway. Here we go. Here's Skagway, right there. Okay. Tattoos Island. You come through the slot, you'll see a big bunch of rocks out here. Those are Skagway rocks, and then there's this bay right in here. Okay. What happens, in my opinion, a lot of the kings that are entering the Strait of Juan de Fuca are coming from the south. Okay, and we talked about north fish, right? Well, sometimes they miss the entrance to Puget Sound, and they come in a circle here, and they hit land. They go, oh, they get that little sniff going. And now they're heading back north to try to find the straits to get in there. They come along the beach here, and all of a sudden there's this big rock pile coming out, and they just kind of slow down. It slows them down a little bit, and they collect there. It's pretty darn good, actually, on a high tide. High tide's when I like to go in there. Okay, rocky. Portage Head up here. This is Macaw Bay up here. I just showed you Skagway. From Skagway, you're going to have Macaw Bay. There's not a lot of fishing done in there because there's some boulders that stick up here and there that aren't really sensible. Portage Head is very rocky. What you'll see on the coast of Nia Bay, you will see that whatever's happening on the beach is happening in the water. It's mimicked in the water. If the beach is sandy right here, it's sandy underneath the water, out in front of it. If it's rocky like Portage Head is, it's kind of nasty. You know, you'll see all this rock structure. It's kind of hard to see on this Google slide, but you know, that's whatever's on the beach is mimicked in the water. So it's pretty clean down here along Shy, all the way down to Point of Arches. Pretty easy fishing in there. As we move down, here's Shy up here. Then you have Point of Arches at the bottom. Then Umatilla Reef. That's about as far as you go, as I said, from Tattoos down to Umatilla Reef, about a 12-mile section of water to fish. Father and Son is along the beach. This looks like a big long beach here. When you zoom in on it, there's some big boulders. Father and Son is a giant rock with a little guy next to it. Okay, I have a picture of that later. It is a shallow water fishery. Basically, you're going to be, a lot of times I like to fish 60 feet of water, and I like to fish mid-water. Okay, so I'm going to have 30 feet on the downriggers. Best gear for the beach. Once again, there's anchovies and little stuff. A cut plug or a whole herring. If you're going to fish them, fish small stuff. A lot of guys like to fish a dummy flasher at the bottom of their ball and then clip on up here so they don't, you get the flasher. What a flasher does is about 3 different things. It makes noise in the water. It does. Fish hear that thing rotating. It makes a flash. Every time that thing goes around, it's boom, look at me, boom, look at me. And it gets the fish's attention, okay? And if you're fishing it behind a fishing rod, you're gonna have a hoochie or a fly on it or something. It also puts the action on the lure, okay? In this case here, if you put a dummy flasher on, you're just making it flash and make noise. Basically, look over here, and try to get the fish to look at your bait, okay? I just talked about small baits, so green label or less, you know. Small plugs, 4 or 5 inch. You're not going to fish the 7-inch plugs in there. That doesn't look like the bait, okay? All right. Smaller spoons, smaller profile hoochies. We just talked about that. So here's another place. If you're going to use a hoochie, you're better off with the candlefish profile type of a hoochie. Okay, fish as many rods as you can get in the water, okay? Everybody has fishing buddies that say, hey, I'm going fishing, would you like to go? And you're going, well, you got so-and-so going, I'd be a third wheel. If you can get the more rods you can get in the water, the more fish you're going to catch, period, because you're going to give them more selection, and there's going to be more selection down there. You're going to have your own little bait ball rolling along with you, okay? I used to turn guys down in the past when buddies would call up and go, oh, no, I don't want to be the third guy. So even if you're the third guy and there's only 2 downriggers, if you're running a top rod, sometimes the fish will bite that top rod too. Down here, you're going to run as many. I run 4 downriggers. Actually run downriggers at 30 feet. You're going, why don't you just use lead? Well, it's the controlled depth, that's all. Okay, here's how I do it on my boat. This rectangle right there is the boat, back of the stern, and there's your downriggers. Down there, you're going to run similar depth. That's when anytime you run similar depths in shallow water, you can get away with lots of downriggers. Question in the back.
As far as shallow water, what is your min-max as far as what you're referring to, if I can ask, please?
Well, we're talking about beach fishing right now, and it'd be under 90 feet.
Under 90?
Yeah. Okay. If you take your boat, and most downriggers, whether they're Cannons or Scotties, the boom's like a 5-foot boom, okay? So you add those two together, you've got a 10-foot spread right there. Now you're going to add the width of your boat, okay? So in my case, I'm pretty wide, so if your boat's like 8 foot wide, you know, you're going to have an 18-foot spread, right? You're doing as best as you can. Get those things out there and get them spread so you don't tangle. In the shallow water fishing, we have 4 downriggers on our boat. We hardly ever use the middle ones, but when we do, I rotate them 1 click out of center right there. See how I tilted them 1 click out of center, and I run the boom short so that if you can almost draw a line across there, right? You can almost draw a line from tip to tip to tip, and the way it works out, it's equal spacing from boom to boom to boom, okay? So the more equal, the better you can concentrate on keeping your spread equal, the less amount of tangles you're going to have. Okay. So similar depths, you see that I'm using the same weight on all the downriggers. I'm not mixing it up. And what's going to happen is you're fishing less than 90 feet of water. As I said, I like 60. I'm going to run the downriggers down mid-water, so they're down like 30 feet. Those 4 downriggers down 30 feet and spread nice and evenly like that will actually follow the boat pretty darn good, and you don't tangle, okay? Because you're not down that far. When you get down deep, that's when you get your balls crisscrossing and in weird currents. Well, it's not fun. Okay, here's a picture of us doing it. There's exactly. I just happen to have that picture, and we're fishing in there on the beach. We've got 4 downriggers. What I can tell in this picture is the fishing's a little bit slow because I got a 5th one down the middle right there. So I've got a flyer spoon out there just to increase our odds. Well, this board guy here and that board guy there catches a fish. So there it is. There's that father and son I was describing in that one beach area. This particular day we were doing a circle out in front of it. We're coming right across the face. I'm talking like, here's the face of it. This is west. We were coming in there so tight that you have to. The bait balls are pushed right up against that rock. And then once I'd clear that stone right there, I'd come in here as far as I felt comfortable and start turning out, and bam, we'd hit a fish there. We did it 3 times in a row. It was awesome. It doesn't always work that well, but, you know, there it was. Okay, another thing to look at the plug on the tip of that rod. Fish in that water, everybody that does it religiously says, no, you got to have cut plug herring. I went down there with, the first time I ever tried it, I went down with 3 perfect, shiny, all their scales, cut plug herring, and 1 plug on one of the rods, and the fish liked the plug better than a perfectly spinning herring. I go, whoa. After the second fish on that plug, I told my deckhand, Donald at the time, I said, get another plug on the other side. We put that out, and the plugs were catching all the fish. And I'm going to talk about this later, but this plug right here was designed for this fishery. There's one in the raffle too, by the way. Notice the body of this plug is a glow-in-the-dark plastic, so it's not painted glow-in-the-dark. The body itself is glow-in-the-dark plastic. The white frost paint, this is kind of dirty, but the white frost paint comes up basically and stops at the eyeball. That's just overspray up there to allow the maximum amount of light out right next to that skinny profile at the top. When we started painting these at first, we didn't do, if you look really close, we made this darker by putting a black line on top of the purple stripe. And the idea was, if you're looking at this thing, ow, sharp hook. If you're looking at this thing, the way plugs dart, they'll go like this. They back, and then they zip over to one side. They back, and they zip over to one side. Fish, everybody says, well, fish do not see down, okay? Well, they don't swim level all their life either, okay? Sometimes if they're up, they got to swim down, okay? When they're swimming down, they're going to look at the top of this plug, and they're going to see that thing darting, and it looks exactly like an anchovy zipping around. This works. The profile from the side, it's a herring, so there you go. Oh, it rattles too. I don't know about that, how well that works, but why not put it in there, okay? Well, anyway, that's how we fish in there, and it's a productive deal. That's a June fish, I can tell, because it's clipped there. So another clipped fish. You can see the structure in there. So that guy just come walking out of the house eating a banana. I don't know. Let me tell you a story about, no, I'm not going to tell the story because I'll be mentioning names. I had actually a high-profile fisherman on my boat this year and a couple of his buddies. I walked into the house, they had bags of bananas. And I said, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys have been fishing all your lives. Why would you bring bananas on the boat? We do it all the time. Anyway, I myself, I'm having a bad day of fishing. It's that guy's fault, and that's how I look at it. So. That guy was from California. He didn't know. So. Okay, we're going to talk about fishing to the north, coming out of Nia Bay. Here's the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Every 6 hours, that tide's going one direction or the other, okay? Picture all this water on an outgoing tide hitting that bank right there, okay? You're right in the middle of it. You're getting it all, okay? We'll talk about why that's good, why that's bad, okay? Watt Island I'm showing right here. On a calm day, in other words, without a huge tide exchange, you can leave from Watt Island and go in a straight line up there, okay? There's your course, there's your distance. Pretty close, right? 13 and a half miles approximately, depending on just to the front edge of the bank right there, okay? It's not a bad deal. And that's most of our distances when we talk from Nia Bay, when somebody says, how far is it to Blue Dot? The Tattoo-Spinola line marks the ocean, and most of the distances that we recite or whatever, we're talking about from that Tattoo-Spinola line out, okay? In this particular case, I'm showing that it's only 13 from there. It's only about 8.5 from Tattoos, okay? All right, so there's your calm water course. Get you up there. On a big ebb tide, picture all this structure. It's kind of hard to see on this slide, but you've got rock structure down here by the island. You've got a big finger that sticks out on the garbage dump that guys halibut fish. In other words, you got a structure that comes up. Water's got to get over the top of that. It's got to compress. It's got to accelerate if it compresses. Okay. On a big ebb tide, like let's say you got a 2-foot minus, you do not want to go this way. Okay. If you try that when you get out here by the Whistle Buoy and Duncan Rock, you're going to get your butt handed to you. It gets rough, and there's a way to get out there that makes all the sense in the world. I figured it out a few years ago, and this is one of the best tricks you're going to learn tonight. Follow the shoreline down. Okay, follow the shoreline down. Just stay tight and go. I go on the north end of the island, but you can go on the south end of the island. The current's all out here. The biggest bulk of the current's out there. You can go on the north end of that island. I talked about Stinky Rock, right? It sits right out here on the west or the east side. you can, from here to Duncan Rock up in here, that tide is just roaring like that. It looks like a roller coaster. You can go in there, like I'm saying, like 25 to 50 feet off the north rock right there, and it's a piece of glass. And you look over there and it's just ripping, and you're back there, huh, it's all right. And you just cruise right out there. The water's deep enough right up to the rock. You can get really close to that rock and just stay out of the rough stuff, okay? You're trying to get up here. Keep going out there and just keep going offshore, and as you look to the north, off your starboard side there, you're gonna see that rolling waters is starting to settle down and the waves are getting smaller, and when they get small enough, eventually you can take a right and move up there. You're not gonna do sharp turns like that. You'll probably, obviously do a curve up there. You might go out 5 miles to get out of that. But once you get up there, if it's a really big minus, if you see a bunch of white water up there, turn around, don't go up there. It's gonna be nasty. But then just come down here, tabletop, or fish down here somewhere else, and move back up there when you're not. You wouldn't want to go there 3 feet into an outgoing tide. Okay, that's when it's moving the fastest. Okay, when you get there, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of 300-foot water, and you're going to see sometimes that bait ball never stops. It's just constant on the screen. This is a good bait ball. When it's broken up like that, and you got spaces in here and arches and stuff, that's a lot of bait. Every one of those dots up there is a salmon. Okay, that right there just happens to be rockfish right there. But so you're going to run your gear. If you can run your gear around 200 feet of cable, it's going to put you right on top of the bait with the blowback, and you're going to be in the zone. But this is, I don't care where you go in the ocean or Puget Sound, if you have constant bait that's just a straight line, there's no fish around. When you see it like this, broken up like that, it's good stuff. So. Okay. This is a nautical chart. I just put it on a different view so that you could see this is the separation zone when you get up there. There's that front bank that we just talked about. We're trying to get up there. Okay, from this front bank to the buoy there, that's buoy Juliet that all the shipping lines up on, about 4 mile run, okay? Once you get onto the bank. You can see look how steep that is. So you're coming out of the Juan de Fuca Canyon up onto this thing. And now it's about everything you encounter on the U.S. side is around 300 feet of water, okay? All the shipping comes in south of this purple area right here, pink area. That's the inbound lane right there, from that purple area down to this dotted line. The outbound lane above the purple area up to this dotted line. We have a little better opportunity than the Canadians do because look at they're fishing almost right in the lane, They just have to get out of the way when the shipping comes. But you, let's see, what am I doing here? Okay, I want to talk about this closure.
Okay guys, that's a ton of great information. Make sure you move on to part 3 where Mike starts talking about that deep water Chinook fishing and how many downriggers to use so you can be successful.